Okay, so working on context. This is the intersection of Monument and 110th Road. So this road coming in would be a primary thoroughfare. If you look through the trees, you'll see a bottom field, and then through there you'll see Brush Creek on the other side of that. And then there's our cabin. And this property kind of follows that tree line. If you look way out in there, where the tree meets the crop ground, the boundary kind of follows that, and it follows this road. So we're gonna, we'll come back to what that looks like in a separate video. So orientation, see this power pole? There is a transformer on it. Whoops. There's a transformer on it. And there's also a meter down towards the bottom. And that runs 4 foot under the road. That was done, permitted by the county. And comes in over on the side of the cabin right there. And there is one outlet that is functioning. The electricity is turned on, and so that would just be transferred to your name the date of closing. The well is located right where that white pole comes up, right there. That's a piece of PVC. The well is probably about 70 foot deep, carries about 40 foot of water in it, so about 30 foot down to the water. It regenerates very, very rapidly. To the point where you can't hardly keep up with it. So it would be suitable for irrigation use. It's part of the same pool underground as the neighbor that's about 100 yards up to the east. Oops, sorry. Past that, around the bend on the other side of that treed area. So, yeah, that's the water situation. There is also, if we kind of go back through the trees over, get it to come into focus here, in between these two white posts, right there is a bit of red. That is a rural water district outlet. So nothing's connected to it, but the water pipe is all laid underground, ready to be hooked into at that site. These trees, it looks like there's one sycamore and the rest are hackberry. And you'll notice these are some very tall trees for this region. They have been here, you know, probably 150, 200 years. Back when Geary City was a city in the 1850s, this little spot, this little flat spot, was the port. There's on the other side of the trees, you'll note there's a pretty big little drop off down to that crop field. It's probably about 6 foot of elevation change, and that would be where the port was and where the old river boats came up. So septic, you'll see that come into view now. It is, and I'll give you in relation to the house. So that blue pipe coming up is where the septic tank is. It's a concrete tank. There's 2 laterals that run off to kind of that direction, about 75 feet. So out to that next tree that just came into view, about that far out is, there's 2 pipes that run underground there. So it's not really a suitable place to build anything because that's your leach field. Let's see. Let's talk about boundaries next. So I'm going to pull you back around. See the Monument Road out there. Back to our intersection where I was standing earlier. So we are, you know, we're in an unusual little area where we have lots and blocks of Geary City that are our boundaries. So you'll see this T-post in front of me. That T-post is a corner of the property. So what lays on this side, this tree and this little skinny little thing, that little area belongs to the parcel across the road, that hillside. The Lorfs own that. But it's always been mowed and maintained by the owner of, you know, this land around it. It's not a very big parcel. We're talking maybe 50 feet by 25 feet of grass there that's owned by somebody else. And it kind of, you can always sight yourself in, because if you look across the road, there's a T-post out in the grass about right there, and that guy gives you that's a block. Those are the block corners is what these T-posts are marking. So, in the overall scheme of things, it's not a big deal. The Lorfs that own that little corner or that little piece of land, though, they are very adamant that it is theirs, and it's important to them that is maintained as a separate parcel, and that it's understood that it's not the same ownership. So then we go out into your broader yard, and you go all the way across. It's going to take me a little bit to get there. And we're going to have a similar situation where the corner of a block comes down into this parcel. I personally have chose not to worry too much about this one because it's all within that 30-foot road right away. So, you know, we do see that white post coming on ahead, and if we kind of think of that as a right triangle coming into that T-post, you know, going up across the driveway, kind of at this angle right here, if you go clear off into these trees, just straight ahead, you know, that's where that line's going to come in. Now I'm going to go and look the other direction. So then it's probably going to take off the other piece of the triangle and go kind of straight that way up into the road. So as you can see, we're just talking a tiny little sliver of that driveway, and this up in here that belongs to the parcel that is across the road. The other piece of this is what we're looking at right here is part of the 55-acre tract. That doesn't impact what you're buying at all. This is the 5-acre tract. So there's just on the 5-acre tract from your point, just a little tiny little triangle. I mean, we're talking maybe 6 feet by 10 feet little triangle that comes into the grass that's owned by somebody else. But it seems like it's part of the yard for this property. But again, most historically, it's always just been mowed as part of the yard for this property. So yeah, that gives you kind of a pan back of where the building is, where the corner of the two roads are, where this boundary is. Then I'm going to spin back around. These two posts are also part of the boundary for this property. So if you kind of think of that white one, and then you can see a T-post down ahead, right down there, that T-post, and then the white one. Those are also boundary for this 5 acres that are part of the yard. So the rural water is technically on the adjoining parcel. It's on the 55-acre parcel, but it's here, and this is what it looks like. That is too hot to hold on to. I'm sorry. If you need I'll try to get a closer up picture of that later. Okay, so I think I'm gonna, let's shoot out in the field so you can see that boundary better. I'm not a videographer, if you can tell, but if you happen to be able to zoom in on this video, you'll see a white post there, and then I can see another white post kind of out on that knob, but back into the field just a little bit further out, and then it's going to chase down to about right there. and kind of just hug this hillside as it comes up. So there is, you were asking about in the trees, there is quite a bit of elevation change. I'm not sure exactly how to show that with the video where it'll show up well. But again, it's at least probably 6 foot of difference between if you were standing on the bottom versus the road on a height change. All right, so I'm going to end this one and we'll do some smaller, shorter videos on some other things.